in Houston, Texas, October 2005. One Tuesday night, which began the way Tuesday nights begin in Houston in October, which is with the specific quality of humidity that does not care about the hour. The sun has been gone for 5 hours. The temperature has barely moved. The air still carries the weight it carried at noon, only now it sits against the skin in the dark, pressing in the particular way that Gulf Coast air presses when the city has finished pretending it is a city and has remembered it is a swamp. The gym sits on the outskirts of town, 15 minutes off the interstate, in the kind of industrial corridor that exists in every American city and looks the same in all of them. Corrugated metal buildings, chain-link fences, a bail bondsman 2 doors down with a hand-painted sign, a taco truck that closes at 10, the specific character of a stretch of road that nobody drives to unless they have a reason to be there. The sign above the gym's door reads Holyfields in white letters on a blue background, the paint faded at the edges from 14 summers of Texas sun. The letters lean slightly to the right, which is how they were painted, which is how they will remain, because the man who owns the building does not care whether the sign is perfectly level. He cares about other things. The parking lot is empty except for one vehicle, a black Ford F-150, mud on the tires, a gym bag in the passenger seat visible through the window. The truck has been parked in the same space for 4 hours. The engine is cold. Inside, the fluorescent lights hum with the specific frequency that fluorescent lights produce at the end of their useful life. 2 of the 12 tubes have started to flicker. 3 are already dead. The man who owns the building has not replaced them because the light that remains is sufficient for the work that gets done here, and the work that gets done here does not require brightness. It requires something else. The smell of the room is the smell of a boxing gym that has been in continuous operation for 16 years, which is a smell that cannot be manufactured and cannot be removed, only accumulated. Old leather, hand wraps that have absorbed 20,000 hours of sweat. Pine sol on the concrete floor from the mop that gets pushed through at midnight. Always at midnight, because that is when the last man here decides the day is over. The particular chemical sweetness of liniment, the faint metallic tang of blood that has dried in the corners of the canvas where the ring meets the ropes and where the cleaning cloth never quite reaches. The heavy bag in the far corner is still moving, not dramatically, just the slight back and forth of an object that has been struck repeatedly and is now returning to rest in the way that objects return to rest when the air around them is still and the chain above them is well oiled. Someone was working on this bag 11 minutes ago. Someone is going to be working on it again. Evander Holyfield is in the ring, 43 years old, wearing gray sweatpants, a white t-shirt dark with sweat at the chest and under the arms, hand wraps that he put on 2 hours ago and has not taken off. He is shadowboxing, moving through the specific sequences that his body has moved through for 31 years, since he was 12, since a man named Carter Morgan put gloves on his hands in Atlanta and told him he had something. He is alone in the building. The last sparring partner left at 9. The strength coach left at 9:30. The cleaning staff come in the mornings, never at night, because Holyfield cleans at night himself, pushing the mop across the concrete in the silence after his work is done, the way he has always cleaned, the way his mother taught him to clean when he was 8 years old, and she worked 3 jobs in Atmore, Alabama, and told him that a man who would not clean his own space was a man who had forgotten where he came from. He taps his gloves together once. A small sound. The specific muffled percussion of Velcro and leather that does not carry past the first row of folding chairs against the wall. Then he sets into his stance. Weight distributed, hands up, chin tucked. The specific geometry that 26 years of professional boxing have made so automatic that it no longer looks like technique. It looks like how his body exists when it is ready for something. He throws a jab. The sound is the sound of a jab thrown into empty air by a man who has thrown a million jabs into empty air, a dry snap, a release of breath, the shoulder rotating through the exact arc it has rotated through since he was a teenager in Atlanta, sparring with men twice his age who told him he punched harder than his frame should allow, and who were correct about this in ways they would not fully understand until they saw what the frame became. jab, cross, hook, pivot, jab. The combinations are old. The combinations are simple. The combinations are what he has always done, because what he has always done is what has worked. And what has worked is what built the record that sits behind him now. Undisputed cruiserweight champion, 4-time heavyweight champion of the world, the only man in the history of the sport to accomplish both of those things. But the record is not what he is thinking about. He is not thinking about the record when he trains alone at night. The record is a thing that other people discuss on television. The record is a thing that gets printed next to his name in newspapers. The record is not something that is present in the gym at 11:47 on a Tuesday night in Houston, Texas. What is present is the work. What is present is the breath. What is present is the specific sound of his own feet on the canvas, the creak of the ring boards, the hum of the lights, the distant traffic of the interstate carried faintly through the metal walls. He throws a 6-punch combination. Then he resets. Then he throws it again. Then he resets. The clock on the wall above the door reads 11:49. He has 13 minutes left in the round he has assigned himself. He does not look at the clock. He does not need to. His body has an internal timing mechanism that he developed in training camps for championship fights, a sense of how long a round is that does not require external confirmation, and the 13 minutes will complete themselves, whether he measures them or not. Outside, on the 2-lane road that runs past the gym, a car passes. Headlights sweep briefly across the high windows. The light moves across the ceiling in a slow arc and then is gone. Holyfield does not notice. Or he notices in the way he notices everything in the gym, which is completely without interrupting what he is doing. A second set of headlights appears. This one does not pass. A black Chevrolet Suburban turns into the parking lot. The tires crunch over the gravel at the entrance with the particular sound that large tires make on loose stone at low speed. The SUV pulls in next to the F-150 and stops. The engine idles for a moment. Then it shuts off. Holyfield, inside the ring, inside the work, does not hear this. Or he hears it the way you hear things you are not paying attention to, which is information that gets filed without being processed. The specific filter that fighters develop for ambient noise, the discrimination between what requires attention and what does not. He throws another combination: jab, cross, hook, uppercut. The driver's side door of the Suburban opens. A man steps out. He stands for a moment in the parking lot, looking at the building. He is wearing a dark hooded sweatshirt, jeans, white sneakers that look new. His hands are in the pockets of the hoodie. His breath makes a faint cloud in the air that is not quite cold enough to justify a cloud, but produces one anyway because the humidity has dropped just enough in the last hour to allow it. He stands there for a longer moment than a man normally stands in a parking lot. A full minute, then 2 minutes, then 3. Inside the gym, Holyfield completes his round. He walks to the corner of the ring, picks up a water bottle, and takes a long drink. He spits the second mouthful into a bucket. He rolls his neck. He breathes. Outside, the man begins walking toward the door. To understand what is about to happen, it is necessary to understand the body that is in the ring, because the body in the ring is not an ordinary body, and the man inside it is not an ordinary man, and neither of these facts has anything to do with the record that people discuss on television. Evander Holyfield is 5 feet 10.5 inches tall. This is not a heavyweight's height. Heavyweights are 6'2", 6'4", 6'6". Heavyweights are Lennox Lewis at 6 feet 5. Heavyweights are Riddick Bowe at 6 feet 5. Heavyweights are the men who were built to be heavyweights, who walked into their first gyms at 16 years old with frames that suggested what they would become. Holyfield was not built to be a heavyweight. Holyfield was built to be a cruiserweight, a 190-pound man. And for the first part of his professional career, that is exactly what he was, and what he was at cruiserweight was the best cruiserweight who has ever lived. Undisputed and unquestioned, a man who unified every title in the division and then ran out of people to fight and did what no one had ever done cleanly at his size, which was walk up to heavyweight and take the crown. His shoulders are the shoulders of a man who spent 8 years carrying an extra 40 pounds of muscle that his natural frame did not want to carry. The deltoids sit heavy and rounded in a way that is not aesthetic, but functional, the specific density of tissue that has been built by 2 decades of weighted pull-ups and ring dips and the particular Soviet-style resistance training that his strength coach Tim Hallmark designed for him in 1988 and that he has not stopped doing since. His neck is thick the way a heavyweight's neck has to be thick, because the neck is what absorbs the shock of punches that the guard does not catch. The neck is what keeps the brain from accelerating inside the skull when a Tyson left hook arrives on the temple, and Holyfield's neck has done its job thousands of times in training and in fights, and has the cumulative geometry of work that has been performed. Above his left eye, running from the edge of the eyebrow up into the hairline, is a scar, 3 inches long, slightly raised. The scar from a headbutt in the 3rd round of the first Bow fight in 1992, the fight that opened him, the fight in which he discovered that heart and technique and preparation were not always sufficient against a man who was also heart and technique and preparation plus 4 inches and 30 pounds. He lost that fight. He lost the undefeated record he had carried for 27 professional fights. He lost the unified heavyweight championship of the world. And then he did what he has always done, which is train for the rematch. He got the title back. He lost it again. He got it back a 3rd time. He lost it a 3rd time. He got it back a 4th time. 4 times he has worn the heavyweight championship of the world, and every time he lost it, he walked back to the gym the next Monday morning, and the gym has been this one for the last 9 years, this specific building on this specific road outside Houston, and the men who have trained with him here know what he does at night when everyone else has gone home. What he does is work, not the work of a champion preparing for a fight. Just work. The work that has always been there, the work that was there when he was 12, the work that was there when he was 15 and his mother died, and he decided that he would not be stopped by anything because being stopped was not a thing his mother had raised him to understand. In the ring now, he begins the next round. He moves laterally. Left. Right. The footwork of a man who learned to box in the era when footwork was still taught seriously, who studied Willie Pep on film, who studied Ray Robinson, who studied Ezzard Charles, who took what was useful from each of them and discarded what was not. He does not move like a heavyweight. He moves like a welterweight who happens to be 210 pounds, and that discrepancy is part of why he was able to do what he did to the men he did it to. He throws a 3-punch combination to the body of an imaginary opponent. Left hook to the liver, right to the ribs, left to the liver again. The punches are soft because he is shadowboxing, but the mechanics are the mechanics he would use in a fight, and the mechanics are what he is drilling. The clock now reads 11:58. He thinks, as he sometimes thinks during these late rounds, about the men he has fought. There is a roll call in his head that is not vanity, but inventory. Cowie, Dokes, Douglas, Foreman, Cooper, Bowe, Moorer, Kaziz, Tyson, Lewis, Ruiz, Tony, Rahman, Valiev. Each name is a fight. Each fight is a set of memories that lives in his body more than in his mind, a set of impressions of what those men felt like when they were in front of him, how they moved, what they did when they were hurt, what they did when he was hurt. Tyson is one of those names. Tyson is one of those names in the specific way that Tyson is one of those names for anyone who shared a ring with him in the 1990s, which is that the memory is not only a bicy memory of what happened inside the ropes, but a memory of the atmosphere that surrounded the ring, the specific gravitational pressure of being the man who was going to fight Mike Tyson next, the weight of a nation's expectation that you were about to be destroyed. Holyfield fought Tyson twice. He won both fights. The first was in November 1996 in Las Vegas, an 11th round technical knockout, a result the sport had not expected and in significant portions of the sport had not considered possible. The second was in June 1997, also in Las Vegas, and was the fight during which Tyson bit a piece of cartilage off Holyfield's right ear, and then, 90 seconds later, bit the left ear as well, and the fight was stopped and Tyson was disqualified, and the world that watched on pay-per-view witnessed something that had not previously been understood to be possible in a championship boxing match at the highest level of the sport. The ear healed. The relationship did not. For 8 years after the second fight, Holyfield and Tyson did not speak. There were opportunities, promoters called, reporters asked, third parties suggested meetings. Holyfield declined most of them. Tyson did not pursue any of them. The silence between the two men was not a hostile silence. It was a structural silence. It was the silence of two men who had occupied the same piece of the sport's geography for too long and had said to each other, through their bodies, everything that needed to be said, and who had no mechanism by which to say anything else. Holyfield had forgiven him. He had said this publicly. He had said it in interviews. He had said it because he was a Christian, and his faith required it, and he took his faith with the literalness that his mother had taught him to take it. He had said it, and he believed it, and he had moved on in the specific way that men of his temperament move on, which is completely without residue, without requiring anything further from the person they have forgiven. But forgiveness and reconciliation are not the same thing. Forgiveness is something you do inside yourself. Reconciliation is something that requires the other person to be present, and the other person had not been present for 8 years. He finishes the round. He walks to the corner. He takes another drink of water. He looks at the clock. 12:02. It is at this moment that the door of the gym opens. He turns his head, the specific turn of a fighter who has registered a sound that should not be there. His hands come up halfway, not in a fighting position, just up, the body preparing itself before the mind has caught up. A man is standing in the doorway. The light from the parking lot behind him silhouettes him so that his face is in shadow. But the silhouette is enough. Holyfield knows the silhouette. He would know it from 100 yards, in any light, in any weather, against any background. He has studied it on film. He has stood across a ring from it twice. He has hit it. It has hit him. The silhouette is not a silhouette to him. It is a shape his body memorized a long time ago and has not been able to unmemorize. Neither man speaks. The door closes behind the visitor with the specific sound of a heavy metal door on a pneumatic hinge, a slow hiss followed by a click. Now the light from inside the gym is on the face of the man who has walked in. It is Mike Tyson. He is 39 years old. He has been retired from boxing for 4 months. The last fight of his career ended in a 6th-round stoppage against Kevin McBride in Washington, D.C., on a June night that Tyson walked away from with the specific expression of a man who has understood that he will not be doing this anymore. He announced his retirement in the post-fight interview. He said he did not have it in his heart anymore. He said he was done. 4 months. It is not a long time. It is long enough for a man to begin the process of understanding what his life is when the thing that has been his life is no longer available. He is wearing a dark gray hooded sweatshirt, zipped halfway. Underneath, a white t-shirt. Below, jeans that are slightly too long and bunch at the ankles. On his feet, white sneakers. The clothing of a man who has dressed to be unrecognized, which is a challenge for a face that is one of the most recognized faces on earth. The tattoo on the left side of his face is still new enough that the ink has the particular darkness of ink that has not yet been lived with. He got it in February. It has not yet become part of him in the way that tattoos become part of their wearers over time. It still sits on the surface. It still looks, in certain lights, like something that was recently added. His hands are in the pockets of the hoodie. He has not taken them out since he entered the building. The posture is not aggressive. It is the opposite of aggressive. It is the posture of a man trying to make himself smaller, which is a thing that Mike Tyson has rarely tried to do in his life, and which produces a specific awkwardness in his body because his body is not designed for smallness. He is 5 feet 10 inches tall, the same height as Holyfield, within half an inch. In his fighting prime, he weighed between 215 and 220 pounds, and the weight sat on his frame in the specific distribution that made him what he was, which was the most physically explosive heavyweight the sport had ever produced. A man who generated knockout power from a frame shorter than most of his opponents by 6 inches, through the specific biomechanics that Cus D'Amato had trained into him starting at age 13 in a house in Catskill, New York, that Cus had opened to boys who had nowhere else to go. At 39, the weight is still there, but it sits differently. Some of it is no longer muscle. The neck is still thick. The shoulders are still wide, but the waist has softened, and the face has softened, and the specific geometry of the body that made him Iron Mike Tyson has loosened into the geometry of a man who is no longer Iron Mike Tyson, only Mike Tyson, which is a different thing, and which Mike Tyson is still learning how to be. He stands in the doorway for a long moment. Neither man has yet spoken. Holyfield in the ring lowers his hands. The thing about the relationship between these two men that is not visible from the outside is that it started before either of them was famous. They met for the first time in 1984. Tyson was 18. Holyfield was 21. Both of them were in Colorado Springs at the U.S. Olympic Training Center. Holyfield as a member of the team that would go to Los Angeles that summer. Tyson as a young fighter who had been invited to train with the team but had not made it on. They sparred multiple times. What happened in those sparring sessions has been discussed differently by different witnesses over the years. Tyson has said that he got the better of it. Holyfield has said that he did. The specific truth of those sessions is not recoverable now, because the only people who know what happened are the two men who are currently in the same building together for the first time in 8 years. What is recoverable is this. They have known each other for 21 years. They have shared a ring 3 times if you count the sparring, twice more if you count the 2 professional fights. They have occupied the same sport during the same era. They have, in ways neither of them fully articulates, been defined in part by the existence of the other. And now Mike Tyson is standing in the doorway of Evander Holyfield's gym at 2 minutes past midnight on a Tuesday in October, and the door has closed behind him, and he has not yet said why he is here. Holyfield speaks first. Mike. That is the whole sentence, just the name. Delivered in the flat, even tone that Holyfield uses for everything, the tone that is not friendly and not unfriendly, just accurate, just the acknowledgement that the person in front of him is the person he knows them to be. Tyson's head comes up slightly. Until now he has been looking at the floor, at the specific square of concrete just inside the door, the way people look at the floor when they have entered a room and are not sure whether they are welcome in it. At the sound of his name, he looks up, and for the first time the light catches his eyes clearly. His eyes are not the eyes of the young man who entered professional rings in 1985. Those eyes were hungry. Those eyes were the eyes of a teenager who had been told by Cus D'Amato that he was going to be the youngest heavyweight champion in the history of the sport, and who believed it because Cus had told him to believe it, and Cus was the first person who had ever told him anything that made him feel like he was a person rather than a problem. The eyes in the doorway now are different. They are tired. They are the eyes of a man who has spent the 4 months since his retirement discovering that retirement does not solve anything. It only removes the structure that was keeping certain questions at bay, and once the structure is gone, the questions arrive. Evander. That is his whole sentence, too. The two men look at each other across the distance of the gym, which is about 40 feet, the distance from the doorway to the ring in the far corner. Neither of them moves. The industrial lights hum above them. The heavy bag in the other corner is perfectly still now. Holyfield, after a moment, ducks through the ropes of the ring. He climbs down the 3 wooden steps to the floor. He walks toward Tyson. He does not walk fast. He does not walk slowly. He walks at the pace he walks at, which is the pace of a man who has never in his life been in a hurry to get somewhere, because hurrying is the enemy of precision, and precision is the thing that has kept him alive in rooms with men who were trying to end him. He stops about 6 feet from Tyson. They are now both in the same pool of light. He can see Tyson clearly. Tyson can see him clearly. "How'd you find this place?" Tyson shrugs. A small motion, shoulders under the hoodie, almost imperceptible. Asked around. "Who from?" Don't remember. Holyfield nods slowly. The answer is not the real answer. The real answer is that Tyson has his own channels, his own people, his own ways of locating things. And one of those channels told him where this gym was and what hours Holyfield kept, but the specific channel is not important. What is important is that Tyson drove here at midnight on a Tuesday in October, alone, in a Suburban with out-of-state plates, and that he is now standing in the doorway of this gym without having called ahead, and that neither man is pretending this is anything other than what it is, which is a thing that neither of them has an exact name for yet. Holyfield says, "You want some water?" Tyson looks at him for a second before he answers. Then he says, "Yeah." Holyfield walks to the small refrigerator against the wall near the door. He opens it. He takes out 2 bottles of water. He hands one to Tyson. Tyson takes it. He does not open it. He holds it in his right hand and looks at it like he is trying to remember what he is supposed to do with it. Holyfield opens his own bottle, takes a drink, puts the cap back on, waits. He has learned over the years that silence is a tool, that most people will fill silence if you let them, that if you have a question you want answered and you do not want to ask it directly, the fastest way to get it answered is often to stop speaking and allow the other person to discover, at their own pace, that they have something they want to say. Tyson opens the water bottle. He takes a drink. He puts the cap back on. "Can I sit down?" "Yeah." There is a row of folding chairs against the wall. Tyson walks to one of them. He sits down heavily. The chair creaks under him. He puts his elbows on his knees. He looks at the floor. Holyfield takes the chair next to him. He sits the way he always sits, which is upright, feet flat on the floor, hands resting on his thighs. For about a minute, neither of them speaks. The only sounds in the gym are the hum of the lights, and somewhere outside, a dog barking in the middle distance, and further beyond that, the faint, continuous hiss of the interstate. Then Tyson says, without looking up, "I've been meaning to come find you." Holyfield does not say anything. For a long time. The specific quality of the pause that follows is the quality of a pause that is going to be followed by something difficult. Holyfield knows this. He does not hurry. Tyson takes a breath. He lets it out. He takes another one. "I don't really know why I'm here." Holyfield, for the first time, turns his head to look at him directly. "Yeah, you do?" The honesty of the answer does something to the room. It changes the temperature in the specific way that honesty changes the temperature in rooms that have been pretending not to need it. Tyson does not look up at first. He keeps his eyes on the floor. His hands, still wrapped around the water bottle, tighten slightly. Then he laughs, a single short exhalation through his nose, almost a snort, the laugh of a man who has been caught at something and has decided not to pretend otherwise. "Yeah," he says. "I guess I do." Holyfield waits. "I've been thinking about the ear," Tyson says. There it is. The 2 men have been in the same building for almost 7 minutes, and the word has now been spoken. And the word carries the weight it carries, which is the weight of the most notorious moment in the history of modern boxing. The weight of a pay-per-view disqualification that was watched live by an audience in the tens of millions. The weight of a piece of cartilage that ended up on the canvas of the MGM Grand on June 28, 1997, and of everything that happened to both men's careers after that night. Holyfield nods slowly. He does not speak. "I've been thinking about it for years, Evander." "I figured." "I never said the right thing about it." "No," Holyfield says. "You didn't." The silence that follows is not hostile. It is something else. It is the silence of 2 men sitting with a thing that has been between them for 8 years, and that is now, finally, in the room with them rather than in the space between their public statements. Tyson says, "I was losing." "I know you were. I couldn't figure you out. I never could. You weren't supposed to do what you did." Holyfield does not respond to this directly. Instead, he says, "What did Cuss used to tell you?" Tyson's head comes up. The question lands somewhere specific in him. Cus D'Amato died in 1985 when Tyson was 19 years old, 8 months before Tyson's first professional fight. Cus was the closest thing Tyson ever had to a father, and his death was the single defining loss of Tyson's life, and the trajectory of everything that happened to Tyson after 1985 can, in one reading of it, be understood as the trajectory of a young man who lost the only person who was holding him to a standard. "A lot of things," Tyson says. "Tell me one," Tyson thinks. Then he says, "He used to say the fighter who is not afraid has no imagination. He used to say fear is fire, and you're the gasoline, and the question is whether you control what burns or whether the fire controls you." "Yeah," Holyfield says, "that sounds like him." "How do you know what he sounded like?" "I met him. Once, 79. I was in New York for a tournament. Somebody took me up to the gym in Catskill. He was there. He watched me hit the bag for 10 minutes, and then he came over and he told me my footwork was good, but I was dropping my left after the hook, and I was going to eat a right hand from somebody if I didn't fix it." "Did you fix it?" "Yeah." Tyson almost smiles. "He was right about everything. It was annoying." "Yeah?" There is another pause. This one is easier. The specific ease of two men who have discovered they share a piece of history that neither of them knew they shared. Tyson says, "The night I bit you, that was the worst night of my life." Holyfield does not say anything. "I wanted to tell you that. I wanted to tell you that for a long time. I don't know why I didn't." "Because you didn't know how." "Yeah?" Mike, "Yeah?" "It was one night. It was the night that everybody remembers. It was one night out of a life, Mike. It was 12 seconds out of your life. You're 40 years old. You've had 1,000,000,000 seconds. One night does not get to be the whole thing." Tyson looks at him. The expression in his eyes is an expression that has not been on his face in public in 20 years. It is the expression of a boy in Brownsville, Brooklyn, who used to raise pigeons on the roof of his building before Cus took him upstate. A boy who was arrested 38 times before his 13th birthday. A boy who learned to fight because fighting was the currency of the neighborhood he grew up in, and he needed currency. You really believe that? I believe what I believe. I forgave you a long time ago, Mike. I said it publicly. I meant it. But forgiveness is a thing I did. It's a thing that happened inside me. It doesn't require anything from you. You don't have to come to a gym at midnight to get it, because you already had it. Tyson is quiet for a long time. Then he says, "I needed to hear you say it in a room." "I know." Holyfield stands up. He walks across the floor to the equipment rack against the far wall. He takes down 2 pairs of gloves, bag gloves, not sparring gloves. The specific gloves that are worn for working the heavy bag, padded on the knuckles, open on the palm. He walks back. He hands 1 pair to Tyson. "Put 'em on." "What?" "Put 'em on." Tyson looks at the gloves. He looks at Holyfield. He looks at the gloves again. "I'm retired, Evander." "I know you are. I'm not asking you to fight. I'm asking you to hit the bag." "Why?" "Because we're in a gym, and you came all the way down here, and a man who comes to a gym at midnight needs to hit something before he leaves. That's just the rules." Tyson almost laughs again, the same single exhalation. He takes the gloves. He puts them on slowly. The specific slow motion of a man whose body has not worn gloves in 4 months and is registering the specific pressure and weight of something it has worn every day for 30 years. The Velcro at the wrist closes with the sound that Velcro at the wrist has always closed with. His hands inside the gloves make the specific small adjustments that his hands have always made. Holyfield has already put his on. There are 2 heavy bags in the far corner of the gym. They hang about 4 feet apart. Holyfield walks to the one on the left. Tyson walks to the one on the right. For a moment, neither of them begins. They just stand there, facing the bags, the specific stillness of 2 men preparing to do a thing their bodies have done 10,000 times, and that, for reasons neither of them fully articulates, they have both needed to do tonight. Holyfield throws the first punch. A jab, The sound of his glove on the bag is the sound that the bag has been waiting for, which is the sound of his particular timing on the canvas. A sound that the bag knows the way bags know the fighters who own them. Tyson throws a jab, then a left hook. The bag jumps on the chain. And now the thing that happens is the thing that no one will ever see, because no one is there to see it, because the security cameras in the corners of the gym have been turned off since 9 p.m., because Holyfield turned them off himself when the last staff member left, because there is one night a year when he does this, and this happens to be it, and the specific coincidence of him having turned them off on this night is the kind of coincidence that might not be a coincidence, or it might be, and the difference will not be recoverable to history, because history will not have footage of it. What happens is that Mike Tyson and Evander Holyfield, the two men who fought each other twice in the 1990s in fights that were watched by more people than watched the moon landing, stand on adjacent heavy bags in an empty gym in Houston at 12:17 in the morning and work the bags in silence for 11 minutes. Jab, cross, hook, jab, cross, hook, uppercut. The two rhythms are different at first. Holyfield is throwing in his rhythm. Tyson is throwing in his. Their rhythms were always different. Holyfield was longer, more measured, more calculating. Tyson was shorter, more explosive, more violent in the compression. For the first 3 minutes, they are two separate men on two separate bags doing two different things. But somewhere around the 4th minute, the rhythms start to sync up. Not intentionally, neither of them does it deliberately. It is the thing that happens when two fighters have been listening to each other for long enough. The body finds the pattern. The body locks in. Jab, jab, cross, cross, hook, hook. The sound of their punches begins to overlap so precisely that the specific percussive impact on the canvas of one bag sounds like a continuation of the impact on the other. Two men, two bags, one rhythm. A 4/4 meter produced by two human beings who have not rehearsed it and who are not looking at each other and who have not spoken a word since they began. The gym is full of the sound of them now. The industrial lights hum above. The bags jump on their chains. The floor takes the weight of their feet as they pivot. Outside, the dog has stopped barking. The interstate continues its low hiss. A car passes on the road. Another. 11 minutes. Holyfield stops first. He lets his hands come down. He steps back from the bag. His chest is rising and falling, but not dramatically. He is breathing the way he breathes after work. He is in control of his breath. Tyson takes 3 more seconds, 2 more punches. Then he stops. He stands in front of his bag with his gloves at his sides. He is breathing harder than Holyfield is. His chest is rising and falling visibly. There is sweat now on his forehead, on the back of his neck, soaking through the collar of the hoodie. He does not turn to look at Holyfield. He says quietly, "I miss it, Evander." "I know you do." "I don't know what to do with myself." "I know." "I don't know who I am if I'm not the guy who does this." Holyfield walks over to him. He puts his gloved hand lightly on Tyson's shoulder. The specific light contact of a man who has decided that a gesture is appropriate and has made it without making it into more than it is. "You're going to figure it out," Holyfield says. "How do you know?" "Because you showed up here." They sit on the folding chairs again after that. The gloves come off, the water bottles come back out. Neither of them speaks for a while. There is a particular kind of silence that two men can share after they have done a thing together that neither of them needed to do alone, and the silence in the gym now is that kind of silence. It is not empty. It is full. It is full of everything that has been said and everything that has not been said and everything that no longer needs to be said because the bags have said it. 7 minutes pass. In the 7th minute, Tyson says, "I used to hate you." Holyfield nods. "I don't anymore." "I know." "I don't think I really did. I think I hated what you made me see." Holyfield turns to look at him. "What did I make you see?" Tyson takes a long time to answer. "That I wasn't going to get to be what Cuss thought I was going to be. Mike, you were the youngest heavyweight champion in history. You unified the titles at 21. You were what Cuss thought you were going to be, for a while. For a while? Yeah. That's not the same as being it. Holyfield considers this. Then he says, "Nothing's forever, Mike. Not the title, not the streak, not the body that carries you into the ring. You don't get to be a champion forever. You get to be one for a while, and then you get to be something else." What are you going to be? I don't know yet. You still train every night. I still train every night because training every night is how I find out what I'm going to be. The answer isn't going to come from sitting in a chair. The answer is going to come from the work. It always has. It always will. Tyson nods slowly. The clock above the door reads 12:47. Tyson stands up. His knees pop audibly. He winces and then laughs at the wince, the specific self-deprecating laugh of a man who has discovered that his body is becoming a body that does things that announce themselves now. I should go. Yeah? Evander. Yeah? Tyson does not know how to say the thing he is trying to say. He stands there for a moment, working on it. Then he gives up on saying it with words and instead extends his hand. Holyfield takes it. They shake once. Firm, brief. Two men's hands, both of which have knocked men unconscious in front of audiences of millions, meeting in the middle of an empty gym with nobody watching. Tyson lets go. He turns. He walks toward the door. At the door, he stops. He turns back. "Thanks for the water." "Any time." He pushes the door open. The pneumatic hinge hisses. He steps out into the parking lot. The door closes behind him. Through the window, Holyfield watches him walk to the Suburban. Watch him open the door. Watch him sit in the driver's seat for almost a full minute without starting the engine. Then watch him start it. Watch the headlights come on. Watch the Suburban back out of the space, turn, and pull out of the lot onto the two-lane road. The taillights go east toward the interstate, and then they are gone. Holyfield stands at the window for a long time after the taillights have disappeared. Then he turns back to the gym. The heavy bags in the far corner are still swinging slightly from the last punches that hit them, the specific lazy arc of weighted objects on chains returning to rest. He walks over to them. He stops them, one at a time, with his hand. They become still. He looks at the clock. 12:53. He has 7 minutes left in his assigned round. He puts his gloves back on. He walks to the bag on the left, the one he always uses, the one that knows his timing. He sets his stance. Weight distributed, hands up, chin tucked. He begins. Jab, cross, hook, pivot. The sound of his punches fills the gym again, but the gym is different now than it was 2 hours ago. It has had 2 men in it tonight instead of 1, and both of those men carried 20 years of history into the room, and one of them has left and taken his history with him. And what remains is the specific residue that these encounters leave behind, which is not nothing, and which is not everything, and which is the particular quality of air in a room where something real has happened that no one is ever going to be able to describe accurately, because the people who could describe it are not interested in describing it. The Western journalists who cover boxing will not write about this night. They will not write about it because they will not know about it. No photographer was there. No microphone was running. The security cameras were off. The 2 people who were present will not tell the story publicly in any form that would allow a reporter to reconstruct it. Holyfield will not mention it in any interview for the remaining decades of his public life. Tyson will reference it obliquely once, years later, in a podcast, when he will say that he went and saw Evander one time when I needed to, and he will not elaborate, and the interviewer will not push, and the reference will not be picked up by anyone who recognizes what it is a reference to. And this is the thing about martial arts, and about boxing, and about the specific set of human activities that require 2 people to stand in front of each other and attempt, under controlled conditions, to end each other. The thing is this: the biggest fights are not the ones that are televised. The biggest fights are the ones that happen after. The ones that happen in empty rooms. The ones that happen when the lights are off and the cameras are gone, and the promoters have moved on to the next card, and the audience has forgotten your name because there is a new name to chant. What happened in Houston at midnight on a Tuesday in October of 2005 was not a fight. It was the opposite of a fight. It was two men discovering that the distance between enemy and brother is the same distance, and that which one you are depends entirely on which direction you decide to walk it. It was a forgiveness that had already been granted for the first time. It was a retirement finding in the rhythm of a heavy bag that had nothing to do with retirement, a small piece of the thing that retirement had taken away. It was the precise location of the boundary of knowledge, drawn not in theory, but in hardwood, drawn in 11 minutes of parallel rhythm on adjacent bags, drawn in the specific absence of anyone else in the building to witness it. The sun came up over Houston a few hours later, the way the sun always comes up over Houston, which is slowly and through a layer of humidity that had not dissipated in the night. The first car in the gym's parking lot the next morning was the strength coach's at 6:15. He let himself in with his key. He found Holyfield in the ring, wrapping his hands for the first round of the day. The coach did not ask how his night had been. Holyfield would not have answered if he had. The heavy bag in the far corner, the one on the right, was still. The bag on the left was still. The folding chairs against the wall were in their usual positions, two of them slightly out of line with the others, but nobody noticed. The sign above the door still leaned slightly to the right. The paint was still faded at the edges. The interstate still hissed in the middle distance. The city still did not know. The city would never know. Some fights end on the canvas. Some end in arenas with referees raising hands. Some end in press conferences with contracts signed and rematches announced. And some end in empty gyms at 1 in the morning, in the specific silence after two men have hit bags in the same rhythm and then put the gloves down, because the thing that needed to happen has happened, and nothing further is required. The real fights are the ones nobody films. Houston, October 2005. 2 men, 1 building, 0 cameras. What happened was never televised, and that is why it mattered.